Penacony, the once prison dumping ground for the IPC, turned into a vacation spot for the entire galaxy, the land of dreams and possibilities, but would ultimately grow a sinister parasite from within. This is going to be the complete timeline and story of Penacony, from its origins to the legendary watchmaker, the infamous family, up until the end of 2.2 main story quest. So let's take a deep dive into the planet of festivities. Penacony, before the IPC even got their hands on it, back when Akavili, the Trailblaze Eon, was still around, it was a barren and desolate world covered in deserts. But the IPC would invest and turn it into a giant colossal structure, perfect for housing inmates. The IPC sent a huge number of prisoners to the Asdana star system, and there was a remote planet there, a place that they could just dump prisoners and people they just really didn't know what to do with. The IPC is one of the biggest corporations in the entire galaxy, and their morals are definitely in a gray area. Nevertheless, they needed somewhere to put criminals and prisoners, so they decided on this remote planet in the Asdana star system. Exiled prisoners would have to survive a long journey across the vast distances to reach this location, and there are forced to take up a duty to mend the leak through which Memoria seeps into the galaxy, Memoria being a byproduct of this planet. As they would labor away, they would also be exposed to this Memoria, obviously working within close quarters of it. But over years and years of trying to mend this leak of Memoria into the galaxy, the prisoners would gradually discover themselves entering a captivating dream. And this dream would be shared with all of them, where they obtained a single desire for freedom. Naturally, they are all prisoners, so they would all share the desire to not be anymore. And this would be the first of the dreamscape, a collective, coherent dream shared by literally everyone on this planet, with one single desire. It is unknown how long a Stellaron sat on this planet or how it even got there, but the ownership of the frontier prison changed hands. It is said that Harmony descended, hearing the pleas of the dream of freedom, but also outside help, including the mourning actors and the masked fools who worship the Eon Aha, the Nameless and the Trailblazers, and the Omen Vanguards. The Omen Vanguards following the path of finality. The prisoners would eventually fight and win their freedom with the help of these outsiders. And because there was no clear ruler in Penacony, a lot of civil war and strife between the inmates would break out on a frequent occasion. It was only when the family descended and took control of Penacony that the fighting would stop and well, ironically, order would be established. This would be around the time that the planet would be known as the planet of festivities, with houses, hotels, big apartment buildings that stretch into the sky, and was home to a special species of bird known as Charmony doves that inhabited Penacony. And the dreamscape being a already functioning and maintained reality within Penacony that had 12 main discrete dream worlds within it, with Golden Hour being the most popular. During this time, 7 family lineages were founded and established, being descendants of the original prisoners from the IPC, and these families would be the Oak, Alfalfa, the Bloodhound, the Iris, the Nightingale, the Black Palm, and the Lampmuth families. And at some point in time, the Lampmuth and the Black Palm families died out, leaving the remaining 5 families left. It is implied that the Black Palm family fall was caused by the Alfalfa family, while the Lampmoth family was destroyed by the Swarm. Now to rewind a bit, going back to the Trailblazers that helped rescue Penacony from the IPC and fend off the Swarm disaster. 3 Nameless that were Trailblazers would actually settle within Penacony to help them out and stay long term. The most famous of them being the Watchmaker, known as the father of Penacony. His real name was Mikhail Carr Legwork, who was a former mechanic on the Astral Express, who was responsible for turning Penacony into what it is today, famous not only within the planet but the cosmos. Mikhail was actually born on an ocean-like planet, where he was adopted by 2 legendary seafarers, one named Mikhail, who he's named after, and Char. At some point in time, he would eventually join the Astral Express and become a Nameless himself, but his adventures with the Nameless would come to an end when he would visit a planet named Penacony. Him and 2 other Nameless crewmates Tiernan and Rosalina decided to stay, as they wished to help this planet and its people recover from the Stellaron corrosion, which is what the Astral Express does to this day. Throughout the years, Mikhail has had a tremendous influence on the dreamscape of Penacony, this being even before the family was established. But over the years, when the family would actually be established, when Penacony would unknowingly become another prison under the quote-unquote leadership of the family, Mikhail would sense something's amiss and make sure to secure his legacy, hidden through layers of the dream and riddles, leaving a dreamlike memory of his youth to linger throughout the dreamscape to guide any future nameless that would need guidance through the dream of Penacony. And this incarnation would be known as Misha. But whatever happened to his two nameless friends? Well, the one female who was experimenting on the memory zone mysteriously disappeared within the layers of dream. The other guy, named Tiernan, left Penacony to help deal with the Swarm, as the Swarm was an intergalactic disaster caused by Tazeroth that affected almost every known planet in its own way. Like we discussed, one of the great family lineages in Penacony was wiped out by this Swarm. No doubt mixing the Swarm with the dreamscape would have been an absolute disaster. Tiernan was a really good fighter, and not only helped free the original prisoners from the IPC in Penacony, but was a great help with dealing with the Swarm. He later tried continuing Akavili's work, opening some more star rails. Tiernan would eventually get ambushed by the Swarm and was later rescued by a Galaxy Ranger. And it was later revealed that the family essentially denied him access back into Penacony. They refused to let him come back, so he would never get to see Mikhail again. This makes me believe that Tiernan must have been gone long enough for the family to fully change hands, establish itself, and pretty much seize control of Penacony at this point. He would eventually join the Galaxy Rangers and later fought against a Lord Ravager named Zulo, who they were able to defeat, one of Fantilia's colleagues. They were able to defeat the Lord Ravager, but lots of Galaxy Rangers lost their life in this battle. This is where we see him have a conversation with Acheron in a flashback. And to put this into simple terms, sometimes beings that follow a path very deeply leave ripples behind that can be felt for generations. These Pathstriders die, and they leave behind Sin Thirsters, beings that emerge from the depth of IX, seeing themselves as masters of their own destiny, unknowingly repeating the actions of their past lives. Essentially, their soul lives on in infinite sorrow and torture, which spawns from the infinite IX, nothingness, essentially embodying the meaning of nihility, that everything is meaningless. Tiernan really wanted to guide his dead fellow Galaxy Rangers and Pathstriders of the hunt, and allow their souls to rest, help his companions escape the nihility. Acheron essentially helps Tiernan by allowing his colleagues to finally pass on, let their souls rest. Acheron sort of being an usher for these Sin Striders of nihility. And the word Acheron itself is from Greek mythology, meaning the river or guidance to the underworld. And Tiernan would gift Acheron an artifact or relic that she would later give to Boothill. Now, as for Mikhail, after liberating Penacony, they founded the Stellaron within and essentially realized that it could be used to manifest a dreamscape, using it to turn Penacony into a luxurious destination and to help the population grow. The family also sprouted under the banner of Shipe of Harmony in order to rebuild the planet. Obviously, we know that Mikhail would die long before he'd finally get to reunite with his Astral Express crewmates, so he left that dream bubble we've talked about that is Misha, born from his childhood and early memories. Going back to the family now, after two great lineages passed away, one individual would sort of seize control over all five families, this being Gopher Wood and Sunday's mentor. Somebody that we haven't seen yet, but he controls and has been shown to be the birds that we see in Penacony. I honestly wonder if the Dreammaster or Gopher Wood is the Stellaron itself, as we've seen the Stellaron can manifest within many strange ways, and we've not seen or heard of a physical form of him yet. And what Gopher Wood could also be is a manifestation or reincarnation of Ina of Order, or Order in general. As we know, an Eon can die, but the concepts they embody cannot. After all, eons are an extreme exaggeration of that concept or ideal. They are the most extreme case of that concept manifested into an entity, and they know nothing but what they represent. Order, propagation, abundance, the hunt. They will pursue these ideals for better or worse, no matter the consequences, because moderation is not something an Aeon knows. They will go to the extreme to accomplish what they represent. Which brings us to a young boy who would be greatly influenced by the Dreammaster. A boy named Sunday, the future leader of the Oak family, organizer of the Charmony Festival, and the representative of the entire family. As the great hotel in Penacony opened, the first ever Charmony Festival was successfully held, and the construction of the 12 hours of the Dreamscapes were almost near the end. The Oak family, and the current head at the time, Gopher Wood, declared the unity of the 5 major lineages. Due to the Nightingale family's refusal, their members were brutally threatened by the hounds of the Bloodhound family. Under pressure, the leader of the Nightingale eventually conceded, and all great 5 families joined to make the family, with the Oak family always being the head and representative. It can be easily speculated around this time that Gopher Wood would take over and be the representative of the family in the Oak House is around the time that the Watchmaker would be less of a figurehead in Penacony and more of a myth and thing of legend. Something that even people don't even think really exists, as the Watchmaker would do his best to conceal his legacy, knowing full well that the family have now seized control of Penacony, and that Penacony, the land of festivities, hopes, and dreams, was now just another prison, with a beautiful parasite growing within harmony, that parasite being order. The dream already beginning to be compromised, and Mikhail's trailblazer friends, Tiernan and Rosalina, would be banished and exiled from Penacony, not being allowed to return, and Gopher Wood would begin grooming his successor, the next face of the family and order, Sunday. As you can see, Penacony's world map has already been tainted with the eye of Ina. Sunday and Robin being just children within the family growing up, but having 2 very different ideals. Robin always truly embracing the harmony, being a very glass half full kind of gal, and able to look at things with a less cynical viewpoint, whereas Sunday, even at a young age, always came off as dignified, benevolent, and rational, always feeling determined and just. But as we would soon learn, he would have a very cynical and twisted personality, easily tainted by the Dreammaster, Gopher Wood. He believes that the real world is survival of the fittest. It's not capable of reaching true happiness, and people will always strive and fight for power and control, which I guess technically he's not wrong. After the IPC lost control, there was a lot of civil wars and outbreaks, so he, much like his master, truly believes in the dream that is order, and they fully embrace that Aeon, even if it was absorbed long ago. Human nature will always be pessimistic. It's a desire of people to escape their suffering by relinquishing their freedoms. The drastic contrast between these 2 siblings is demonstrated with a little flashback of a Charmony dove, which they find that injured itself. Sunday believed that caging the bird and feeding it would guarantee its survival, as we don't know the predators and the dangers that lie within the world. But Robin believes that that is not true freedom, and a bird is not meant to be caged, so she ultimately sets it free, and the bird would actually die not long after. As the kids would grow up, the dreamscape would already be tampered with order at this point, and this is leading up to our current story in 2.0, when all of the factions are slowly going to make their way to Penacony. Invitations would be sent out to the Everflame mansion of Duke Inferno, the IPC board members, the Astral Express and Nameless, the Memo Keepers, even the Masked Fools would be present, all to be trapped within Ina's dream of perfect order. But there would be one variable that the family could not predict, and that is the infinite nothingness black hole of IX of Nihility, and an emanator that shouldn't even exist, Acheron or Raiden Mei. Around this time, the IPC would receive their invitation and devise a plan, still being bitter about losing control of Penacony many years ago, would seek to reclaim it, and Diamond, being the head of the strategic investment department and leader of the Stonehearts, also being an emanator of preservation, would reach out to another fellow department head, Taravan Kane, who was also an emanator of preservation and head of the building material logistics department. Elite corporate board members would be collabing on this event, and Diamond would agree to send his biggest risk taker of the Stonehearts, Aventurine, who he felt would fare best. With the dreamscape and Penacony full of riddles and hard to navigate, he felt Aventurine would be the best suited for this, and he was not wrong. Around this time, Acheron, who needs to get to Penacony to fulfill the Nameless wishes, would need to steal an invitation and would decide to storm Everflame Mansion and kill Duke Inferno, taking his invitation and a music box. Duke Inferno planning to raise Penacony anyway, causing destruction to please Nanook and earn his gaze. The Stellaron hunters sending Sam, aka Firefly, as a stowaway to breach Penacony in order to help guide the Nameless to the Watchmaker's legacy, and the Nameless receiving an invitation as well, arriving shortly after. But their invitation would actually come from a history fictionologist, Gallagher, who is a member of the Bloodhound family. Now, a history fictionologist is part of a group that follow the Aeon mythos, the Enigmata, their main philosophy being that sometimes fallacy in misguiding is good, sometimes all truths in recognizing everything can be a harm, which actually is genuinely true, and this Aeon directly opposes erudition, the same Aeon the Genius Society follows. Gallagher did tell us he was previously part of the original Penacony liberation, and was a friend to the Watchmaker. Now that the family has all but seized control and taken over Penacony, he creates a false persona from the traits of the Bloodhound family in order to get a deeper position. The Enigmata comes, and this is all because Penacony's dream is collapsing due to the Stellaron that is the providing force that has helped powering the dreamscape. Dreamflux Reef was the original dreamscape and now has a giant black hole of excess memoria. And it was revealed that not only did Gallagher invite the Trailblazers and the Nameless, but he actually sent a message to the Garden of Recollection, Black Swan, the IPC, the Everflame Mansion, and the Masked Fools. And he forged these letters to look like they came from the family. And he did this in order to get those different factions all interacting with one another on Penacony, and to incentivize them to investigate into the Watchmaker and starting a conflict with the family, which we know is about to happen. Which now brings us to the point of the video where we're going to recap the entire quest. And knowing what we know now, it's funny that all of these factions are headed to Penacony, all of them equally surprised that the family even gave out these invitations because the family's never done this before. And now that we know that the family didn't actually do this and that they're literally pissed that all of these factions now are coming and sticking their nose into the Charmony Festival. And it's all Gallagher's fault. Just makes it more funny now looking back at it. Pom Pom warns us that the memoria that's leaking out of Penacony will actually hit before they land on the planet itself, which the Trailblazer does find themselves within a dream, entering the Asdana star system. But Acheron is still the trump card of Penacony, and the anomaly, so she does what she will continue to do, and she breaks us out of the dream. But as we enter the hotel with the Nameless crew, we see Misha that greets us, which we would later learn that we are actually still in Anna's dream, and that dream and reality are starting to fuse together very awkwardly, as Black Swan would tell us later. And in the lobby we would run into a Stoneheart of the IPC, Aventurine, who says he's been having troubles even getting in. I mean, yeah, since it was Gallagher that actually invited them, and the inmates that are the original ancestors of the family had to fight against the IPC to get their freedom in the first place long time ago. Yeah, no shit, they don't want you in here, IPC. Himiko requests that they could vouch for him in order to create a powerful alliance with the IPC, and Aventurine agrees to this. Obviously, the family do not want the IPC sniffing around. They know exactly what they would be planning to do. And now the games begin. Aventurine would start plotting with Dr. Ratio of the Intelligentsia Guild, where the Nameless start to head towards their rooms, where Aventurine says he did everything he could to get a lucky room and just gives it to us, and baits us into telling him that we have a Stellaron inside us. When everyone finally decides to shut up and let us relax in the pool, we get to finally enter Dreamscape, but we constantly hear someone shouting Mikhail as we fall, and also overhear a conversation with Aventurine and Dr. Ratio how a gray-suited man, Sunday, took a briefcase with the cornerstones to confiscate them. And once entering the dream, we run into Misha, aka the Watchmaker's dream bubble, memory, and he leads us to Golden Hour, which is basically the main hub of the dreamscape, where we see a girl being surrounded by some people, where she asks for our help, and we help her. We would learn that that girl would be Firefly, and it would be the Bloodhound family that was surrounding her. Seen as that they were looking for some mysterious stowaway that snuck into Penacony, who Firefly reveals herself to be a stage performer of the Iris family, which is totally bullcrap. We play some games and do some sightseeing, until she realizes that somebody's been following us, and that somebody would be Sampo all along. And Sampo would actually mistake Firefly for March 7th, seeing as that we did see him on Jarillo 6. He tries to warn us that Firefly is suspicious, and Firefly would actually try to bring us to a secret base of hers, but we'd get interrupted by Clocky, and only we can see Clocky, and he asks for our help to prevent Misha from trouble. Acheron would also be there to try and investigate the masked fools. We finally reach the secret base that Firefly was leading us to. When we reach the secret base, Firefly reveals to us that she suffers from a condition called entropy loss syndrome, and that the people suffering from this slowly fade away from this world. Obviously, we know that she's a Stellaron hunter, Sam, from the Glamoth Iron Cavalry, that were created as super soldiers in a hive mind following Titania. So it makes sense that she wouldn't really have much of a will or original thoughts of her own, and that she struggles to this day. And she also tells us that she's after the Watchmaker's legacy, but we know that she's just trying to lead us to the Watchmaker's legacy, and she already suspected that the Watchmaker was a Nameless himself. Sampo then ambushes us, but it turns out to be Sparkle, and apparently sending us to the real dreamscape, the child's dream. And this would be the first time we encounter the Memory Zone meme. Firefly's about to transform into Sam and absolutely clap this thing, but decides not to. And then that would be when Black Swan would save us. Black Swan would decide to stay by your side. Once we're saved, we'd reconvene with the other Nameless, where Silverwolf would hack our phone and reveal that the Stellaron hunter Sam from the Iron Cavalry was in Penacony. Acheron would also tag along, and this is where we would see Firefly actually get stabbed by the Memory Zone meme for the first time, while we would then go look for other threats, investigate the memory, but would be confronted by the Stellaron hunter Sam. Interesting note, Memo Keepers don't have a physical body, so they can decide who gets to actually see them, and that Sam can see Black Swan despite this. And that actually takes Black Swan by surprise a little bit. Acheron and Sam would engage in battle, while Black Swan would take us to go see Aventurine, where there would be a second murder, Robin. Sparkle tries to pose as Robin and sort of plays games with Sunday, but he's having none of it. From here we know that Acheron knows that Firefly is Sam all along, and they have a brief conversation where she actually questions her inability to dream and reveals that the family should not be trusted. Because Acheron is an emanator of nihility and such an anomaly, Black Swan starts to investigate her in her music box, where the Constance of Dalia from the Annihilation Gang actually touches base with Black Swan and then triggers a phone call to a Galaxy Ranger named Boothill, who is looking for Acheron, a fake poser of the Galaxy Rangers. This would be Acheron's plan all along, to try to gain the attention of the Galaxy Rangers and get them to Penacony, as that is a second part of her mission into why she's here to begin with. That and the promise she made to the Nameless Tiernan. Aventurine already knows he has to die in the dream to reach the real Penacony, so he tricks Sunday. So him and Dr. Ratio come up with this little scheme to try to trick Sunday with the cornerstones. Sunday thinks he's confiscating Aventurine's stone, but it's actually Jade's stone. Jade's is substituted for Aventurine's because theirs look so similar. And this is setting up 2.3 story quest when Jade and the IPC really make a push for Penacony. Now Jade's stone is there and she has the incentive to come herself, which she is next patch. This right here was setting up the very end of 2.2 when Jade actually calls Aventurine at the end, before Boothill shows up. So now that they have Jade's stone, now Aventurine just needs to die in the dreamscape to try to reach the real Penacony. And then Aventurine baits us and Acheron into slicing and dicing him, ensuring that he dies within the dream. And when Acheron actually uses her power, it leaves a rift within the dreamscape, slashing reality. That can literally still be seen there in game. A big rip in the dream, and the Dreammaster is not happy about this and wishes Acheron to leave immediately, realizing that she is the biggest threat to order. Gallagher then uses his Memory Zone meme that is actually not death but dormancy and stabs Sunday, sending him to Dreamflux Reef along with Robin, Firefly, and everyone who apparently died in the dream. And this is where we learned everything that we talked about already in the video: the Nameless, the history of Penacony, the Watchmaker, and Sunday's true plan: being a follower of order. Firefly revealing that she has to die 3 times in the dream and gearing up for death number 2 in order to help us and follow the script of Elio. But at this point it would already be too late, as Sunday would already have a grip on us and the false dream in reality. We would battle him and all the collective hive mind of the other Oak family members, and everyone that has been locked within this dream and can't tell the difference between dream and reality. At this point, Boot Hill would actually finally make his way to Penacony, where he would confront Dong Hung and be looking for Acheron. But this feud would soon be squashed, as Acheron would reveal why she did what she did, to lead the Galaxy Rangers here and return a relic from Tiernan to give to the Galaxy Rangers. The Xianzhou Alliance, along with Dong Hung, come to save the day, and all is well in Penacony. We get our happily ever after, very obviously fake ending, with the IPC saying that we're gonna leave Penacony to you and we're gonna back off. Even Screwlum's here, and everything just seems to be working out so well. Wow, this is wrapping up very nice and suspiciously quick. Yeah, right. The Trailblazers charting their next location, having some laughs, when surprise, surprise, here's Black Swan to tell us and give us the old
fake. Yeah, fugazi, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
That everyone is still trapped within Anna's dream, and that Acheron is the main anomaly here. And the fact that we saw Misha when we first entered the hotel lobby shouldn't have been able to happen, as Misha is not a real being in the real world outside the dream. Dream and reality already being distorted at that point, even though Acheron woke us up. Black Swan revealing that this is also part of Ina's dream, not being able to tell reality from the dream, and that we're all trapped. But we're able to break free, and Acheron is unaffected because she's an emanator of infinite nihility, which she figures out that's why the Dreammaster wanted us gone. And we're able to have our proper fight with Sunday. The Stellaron within the Trailblazer's body allows us to connect with multiple eons and paths, and Harmony reaches out to us. Also, Acheron slices another rift through the layers of Dream, and the relic she gave Boot Hill he fires off, summoning more Galaxy Rangers to Penacony, as this would weaken the power of the hive mind and control that Anna's dream has over everyone, introducing new minds, new dreams, and ideals from fresh people, untainted mental effect that this dream's had on everyone, as introducing a bunch of reinforcements as Galaxy Rangers weakens the state of the hive mind. The Astral Express would also ram Sunday with their train too, and all party members and all the factions seem to come together to take down Order and Sunday, where in the end he was ultimately defeated, but his sister Robin, although she disagrees with him on every fundamental level, embraces him as they fall. And Penacony, for the most part, is free of the control of Order and the family. But Penacony has a few wars yet to come, because there's quite a few unanswered questions, like, will the IPC retake control of Penacony? They do not want to give this up. They have 2 board members collabing on this event, and Jade, who is a high-ranking Stoneheart, is on her way right now, Aventurine and Topaz already being there. Secondly, Sam the Stellaron Hunter, aka Firefly, was a big part in us finding the truth about the Watchmaker and helping us liberate Penacony, but she still has to die a 3rd time in the Land of Dreams. Does that mean that she'll play a big part against the IPC? Or, more likely, will she have to help us deal with the Stellaron that is still located in Penacony? And that the 3rd death will have something to do with that. And lastly, the Dreammaster himself, Gopher Wood, who's only been depicted as the Raven and just the voice of Order that manipulated Sunday. Is he a manifestation of the Stellaron itself? Or is Gopher Wood a manifestation or reincarnation of Anna's Order? Is he the new voice of Order or manifestation of that concept? Because we know that Eon is a control freak obsessed with order at all costs, no matter what. An absolute order at all times is such a flawed philosophy. You cannot have absolute order without seizing control of everyone and everything around you. It's impossible. Life is chaotic, balance, yin and yang, which is why I think order was absorbed to begin with. It is such a weak ideal when you really boil down to it. So is the Dreammaster the next manifestation or reincarnation of Enna? And that being that this Eon was a manipulator and literally depicted in its art as a puppet master, the eye controlling the puppet, was Sunday the Dreammaster's puppet this whole time, and that he'll be the final conflict. And if the Stellaron is still a problem on Penacony and helps fuel the dream, is the dream and reality still mixed together? Is the true ending of 2.2 what we're really seeing? At least for the most part, the family seems to be dealt with and under control. Those are the questions we still need answers to, but thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this video in the history of Penacony. I do want to do a similar video with the Lafu and Bellabog, so let me know if that would be something interesting to you guys. Like and subscribe help grow the channel. I really do appreciate you all watching this far, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.